The authorities in Svalbard have announced that they're going to introduce some pretty radical changes to the way that tourism is managed in the archipelago. They're talking about limiting the number of landing sites that the expedition cruise ships can use. And critically, they're talking about changing the way that polar bear sightings and encounters are managed. And what this will mean in the high season is that the closest you can get to a polar bear will be 500 meters. These are really quite radical, quite draconian, you might say, game-changing changes that they're going to make to tourism. Now, nobody would argue that tourism needs to be regulated, especially tourism to somewhere like Svalbard, which is a really delicate ecosystem. We need to ensure that we're not compromising Svalbard by sending people there. We need to establish what is the carrying capacity for Svalbard, and in doing that we then need to apply limits to the number of visitors. And of course there needs to be a code of conduct that ensures that the habitat and all the wildlife is exploited. So these are all important things, but of course there is a balance. If you go too far, then you dilute the tourist experience, and of course what will happen then is that tourists will simply stop visiting the archipelago. The tourist economy will just decline. You might say, well, so what? There isn't a community in Svalbard that depends on tourism for its economy. Well, our view on this is that when you get the balance right, when you have good sustainable management in place and you allow for an inspiring tourist experience, when you get that balance right, tourism can be a really powerful catalyst for change. Your tourism can create ambassadors that will return from places like Svalbard impassioned, informed, and really push for the protection of habitat, biodiversity, and endangered species. We need to allow for tourism to thrive, and yes, there needs to be regulation. If we put that regulation in place and it stops tourism, then what are we left with? We're left with a disconnect between people and planet. And it's never been more important for people to be engaged and connected with some of the issues that our planet is facing right now. And I think tourism is the vehicle by which people can engage. Tourism can create a community of people that care, because it's the adage of what you don't know, then you don't care about. And tourism is that vehicle by which people can get engaged, see it with their own eyes what is happening, and care and take action to protect our planet.